everybody watching. Once again, welcome to this broadcast. The other time we shared on how to sell. I took you through the process of selling. That process can be done repeatedly without any order. What I mean without any order is that you don't need formalities for you to approach any specific client. All you need to do is just to plan on how you're going to execute your selling process. However, you cannot approach any client in the same manner. You cannot approach any client in the ad hoc mode. Ad hoc means you just walk into their office and you just approach them the way you feel. Not every buyer will agree to receive proposals in the same manner. That's why there is another process of buying or another process of selling called the procurement process. Procurement just means buying. Most governments, organizations, blue chip companies will prefer to buy their goods and services through a procurement process. It's a more complicated process as compared to what we've been discussing, because when it comes to the procurement process, there are some guidelines they use for them to procure any service, system, equipment, or product. So today we are going to break down and to learn all about the procurement process and how to prepare for it. You might be asking, why should an organization buy their goods and services procurement system? There are various reasons. One of the reasons is that any organization will want to arrive at a reliable vendor. They want a reliable vendor. So that's why they'll take time and labor to go through the procurement process so that they get a reliable person. Because the process is mostly competitive and is done when an organization or a company or the government will advertise for a vendor through what we call an RFP, request for proposals. So these requests for proposals are done publicly. Later on, I'll mention the type of procurement processes that we have. So an RFP means request for proposal, and is advertised publicly, maybe in the newspaper, maybe in the internet, so that there will be buyers will begin to send in their proposals. Like, you will tell them how you want or how you are going to sell a product to them, your prices, the specifications, and the deadlines, the timelines on how you are going to either achieve a specific project or you're going to deliver the product to their doorstep. So this process is called selling through procurement. I want to take you through the process generally, but I have videos that I'll be sharing on the specific, more details on what to do, how to approach the process, on how to prepare a successful bid. But at the moment, I just want to take you through the process in general. So how do you need to prepare for this bid? You're interested to supply that organization, either the government or telecommunication company, depending on your product. What do you need to do first? The first thing you need to do is that you need to specialize in a particular product. You need to be known to offer a specific product or service. I know there's a category of people who are general suppliers. It's fine, but there are some products that will need you to specialize. I want to start by the procuring entity. The procuring entity, because they are the ones who reach out to you. You cannot initiate. You don't initiate the process. It is the buyer who initiates the process, and then the seller, who is you, you respond to the process. So when it comes to organized buying, the procuring process, it is the seller who responds, but it is the buyer who initiates the transaction. So one of the things they do is that they identify a need in the organization. They identify a need for service or product in the organization. It's the work of the buyer to identify the need in the organization. And then the second thing, they create and submit an RFP. They create and submit a request for proposal, so that all suppliers, vendors will get an opportunity to look at it and present a proposal. Then the third thing, after the proposals have been submitted to the buyer will evaluate all the proposals, and it takes time because maybe they are looking for 2 vendors or 3 vendors, and maybe they have received 1,000 proposals. What they'll do is that they'll go through an evaluation, and after the evaluation, they will arrive at the best bid, meaning the prices are the best, the terms are the best, and then after this, they'll prepare, they'll negotiate the contract, terms of contracts with the winning bidder, and after that, the vendor will go ahead to meet or to supply, depending on the product, to supply the product or provide the service in a specific time. But you must sign a contract with the vendor. So the procuring entity and the vendor, they sign a contract. How the buyer prepares to come and meet the seller. But right now, I've come to the seller, who is you. How do you? Number 2, you read through the entire document with the mind of trying to understand the specific requirement of that particular bid. Number 3, ask for clarification. You can write back to the buyer, asking the buyer, what do you mean by this specification? What do you mean by this? And then most of them will respond in good time. And then prepare the proposal according to the requirements. So after everything is clear, you can go ahead and start preparing the proposal. What most people do is that they don't take time to understand the requirements. They go ahead and start preparing the bid. Most people make these mistakes. I've come across people who, upon buying the RFP or the request for proposal, instead of decoding the document, instead of interpreting the document, they start in a haste to start to prepare the bid, and yet they miss out so many important details in the document. So upon reading, understanding the document, you can go ahead now to start to prepare the bid according to the requirements. If you read the document, you discover that you only qualify 60%, I'll advise you to drop. But if you see you qualify 85%, 95% according to the requirements stipulated, you can proceed. But most people, when they buy the document, when it is obvious that the requirements of the RFP, they don't meet it, and then they go ahead and attempt the bid. Because preparing a bid is very expensive. I'll not wish for any vendor to try with the knowledge that they cannot make it. So it is advisable to only go for those tenders or those jobs that you feel you qualify. You have the documents, you have the financial muscle, you have the experience, because there is a criteria that they use to evaluate all bids or how a seller is supposed to prepare for the bid. Now, the next part, what are the contents? What are the contents of an RFP? what are the contents of requests for proposal. So these are some of the things that you'll find in that document. And the document looks like this. Looks like this. It can be downloaded from the entity, from the procuring entity. So the first thing, you'll see the background information about what product they want. The second part, detailed description of the project or the service or product. And then number 3, specific requirements of the product. They'll specify up to the last bit of what they want, so that you don't supply anything you feel like. And then the requirements of the bidder or the seller, they are very specific about the person they're looking for to supply the goods. So they'll be very specific about the kind of person who's coming to sell to them. And then the last part is the project deadline. They'll tell you that this project, we intend to finish it within this time, and they'll also tell you when the bid is supposed to be submitted. So those are some of the things you're going to look at.